Hello and welcome to this week's Different League show, sponsored by Betfred. It was some opening weekend of the season, wasn't it? Arsenal hit 3, Chelsea hit 3, Leicester hit 3, Leeds United hit 3, and yet somehow didn't win at Anfield. Lots to look back on and to look forward to in the company of the Racing Post's very own Mark Langdon and a former Manchester City striker, Paul Dickov. Guys, great to see you. Dicko, enjoy the first weekend of the season, and what did you enjoy most?
Yeah, I loved it. I think the one that everybody was talking about was the Leeds performance at Anfield. You know, going into the game, people were saying, are Leeds going to change how they play? Bielsa said they didn't, and I thought they were fantastic to watch and so unlucky not to get a result.
I called the draw, didn't I?
You was unlucky.
I couldn't believe it with a couple of minutes to go.
Rodrigo.
What did you think when I said that at the time, though?
I thought that Leeds would do well, it was the kind of game where it just may have been a little bit too much for them defensively, particularly as they, Ben White was such a key part of what they did last year, but he was hoping that Rodrigo would have an impact in the box. He did, unfortunately, not in the right one.
The wrong way around. Delighted with the Chelsea win for me. Very disappointed with West Ham, and we'll come on to both a little bit later on. But the big week's talking points, let's talk about that now, shall we? Starting with the possibility of Gareth Bale coming back to the Premier League and to Spurs in particular. I'll start with you actually, Mark, and not just because you're a Spurs fan. What would it mean for the Premier League? What would it mean for Spurs?
I think it would be a big boost for Tottenham. They're obviously... The Champions League final defeat took a lot out of them. The team they've not responded well to that. Obviously, they've had the managerial change. They need freshening up. They need some real quality in that squad. You looked at it against Everton, and it was Everton playing all the football. And you think, hold on a second, this was a team that was in a Champions League final not that long ago. So, I mean, Bale is somebody that's won serial Champions Leagues, and he's fallen out of favour at Real Madrid. I still think he's got a lot to offer. Maybe not a team like Manchester City or Liverpool or even Real Madrid, but Tottenham are not at that level. And I think he'll be a major boost, not only to the playing staff, but also to the fans.
Do you agree with that? That perhaps for what you would think will be the top four, certainly the top 2 or 3, he wouldn't necessarily be a great addition for? And what does that tell us about where Gareth Bale is right now?
And Tottenham, I think, because Tottenham, they'll have expectations to try and push into that top 4. I know Man United were slightly linked with Bale as well. I couldn't see that happening, but I agree with Mark. I think the boost that Gareth Bale would give Tottenham, not just on the pitch, but off the pitch as well. But I'm just not too sure about it, Scott, because he's not played a lot of football. We all know what the demands of the Premier League are like. He's a fantastic player, and what he's achieved at Real Madrid has been fantastic for him. But he does carry injuries, and the Premier League's a completely different game physical-wise from what La Liga is. And if it comes off, I hope he does well, because he's a great lad. But I just worry injury-wise for him and keeping up with the demands of the Premier League.
I'm actually with you. I think we're in the minority, actually, aren't we, in terms of that? He hasn't played much in the last 18 months. The Premier League does have big demands as well. And when you think of where his mind was at a year or so ago, he was happy to go to China. It doesn't matter how much money you're being offered. Does that tell you that perhaps people talking about he's on the golf course, I don't want to throw that at him, but perhaps he's been easing back in the last... And then it's difficult to push on again, isn't it?
I think he has been easing back purely because he's out of favour, and he has been for a long time at Real Madrid. But I think, when you look at the impact he has in the Wales squad, he comes in and by all accounts, his professionalism is fantastic, and he lifts that. And I think he would do the same with Tottenham. But I just think that the demands, especially at the minute, at the start of the Premier League season, where teams are playing 3-4 games a week, can his body handle that after not playing football for so long?
But we do hope he comes to the Premier League. No transfers, but signings nonetheless. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang and Jack Grealish signing deals. How crucial is this for Arsenal and for Villa?
I think for both of them, it was absolutely vital. I mean, Aubameyang's form been sensational. The important goals that he scored for them, in the FA Cup run, and the quality of those goals as well. It would have been a real hammer blow, I think, for Arsenal and Arteta, who's looking to, really sort of put the strong foundations in if, his best player suddenly leaves. As far as Grealish goes, I never really felt comfortable with Grealish leaving Aston Villa and sort of when he was being linked with Manchester United. It feels to me a bit like the Zaha situation, where his value to the selling club is too high for the buying club. So he might be worth 80, 100 million to Aston Villa. he's not worth that to a Manchester United, for instance, who can go and get Van der Beek for under half that. So I think it's good for Villa that Grealish stays. He gets his pay rise and a big year for him as well, because I'd like to see him in that Euro squad come the end of the season. Southgate doesn't seem a massive fan, but we saw the quality. Even it was only against Burton, but the pass he put in for, I think it was the first Villa goal was just brilliant.
It was, yeah. Neil Taylor didn't even know where it was coming. Some deal for Aubameyang, isn't it? 31 years of age, a 3-year contract, £350,000 a week. But is he worth it because of his numbers? And what about Jack Grealish as well? It looks like he won't be playing Champions League football for some time.
No, it doesn't. I think the Aubameyang thing was always going to happen. And knowing Mikel Arteta from his time at Man City, he's a strong character, and if he felt Aubameyang wasn't going to sign his contract, I don't think there's any way he would have played in the Community Shield or even the first game of the season, because Mikel, as much as he realises how big Aubameyang is to them, if he doesn't want to be at the club, he won't be there. He's very similar to Pep Guardiola and that sort of stay. But for me, Aubameyang's a fantastic signing. His goals, his leadership, by all accounts, what you hear about him off the pitch and in the changing room as well, he's a talisman. So that didn't surprise me. The Grealish one did a little bit because there's been a lot of rumours about him leaving. And I agree with Mark again. I don't think clubs would have paid the 80 million that he's worth for to Aston Villa, but they say that it happened over 24 hours, so something's moved very quickly, and it's great news for Aston Villa because his numbers last season and assists and dribbles and goals and everything else was up there with the very best of them. So the signings that they're making, I think Jack Grealish for Dean Smith was a massive signing for them.
Well, Villa can ask 80 million plus now when he's on a 5-year contract. Liverpool haven't made a major signing yet. What do you make of Jurgen Klopp's criticism of Chelsea's signings? I mean, Frank Lampard took it in a really good way, laughed it off, and then named all the players that Liverpool have bought in recent years.
Yeah, I mean, Liverpool sell to buy, though. I mean, Coutinho paid for a number of those transfers, and they sold quite a lot of players to Bournemouth for you think of Ibe, Solanke, that helped to pay for them. Klopp and Lampard seem to have this little dig at each other. It happened, didn't it, at Anfield in the just before the season ended. I mean, if Klopp had the money, he would spend it. I mean, Lampard needs to get used to this, though, because he's got every week now. Managers will throw this out there. Big spending, Chelsea. I think there's a different way that they go about their spending. Like I say, Liverpool will have to sell to then be able to buy those players, where Chelsea can be more aggressive in the market. But I'm sure if Liverpool had a Roman Abramovich type, then they would equally go out and spend and buy the quality of players. Klopp's probably a little bit upset because he looks at Werner and Havertz and probably would want them in his squad, I would imagine. Yeah,
as a former manager yourself, Paul, how do you see the little rivalry that seems to be building up nicely between those two, but also Liverpool as well in the squad? Yeah. Do you feel it's strong enough?
I don't. And I have done, well, I've thought that for a couple of years. I think they've been very lucky with injuries. I think the first 11's fantastic, as they've shown winning Champions League and then blowing the Premier League away last year. But if they pick up a couple of injuries, especially in central defence, Van Dijk, best centre-half in Europe. But it would be interesting to see. It's like Man City lost Laporte last year and couldn't cope with it, and I think that would have a similar thing. So I think as in big signings, I don't think they need many there, but I think as in the strength and depth that they've got there, that they might struggle. But it made me laugh. I thought Frank was brilliant with his comeback, and he's saying about Klopp spending the Coutinho money. Frank's not really done anything different with the Hazard money that he's got as well. So
and didn't spend anything, obviously, with the transfer.
And couldn't spend anything. So, but any team, and it goes all the way back to Blackburn and Manchester United, the best teams at the top that win the leagues at some point spend the most money.
Manchester City have spent a bit in the last few years, haven't
they? I think there's a bit more to come in there as well.
I'm sure there is. Let's have a look at some selected Premier League games now, shall we, in game preview. The first one, Leeds, Fulham, battle of the newly promoted sides. I mean, Leeds did come so close to shocking the champions at Liverpool, didn't they? What impressed you most about them?
How they didn't change, how they played from the Championship. It would have been so easy for Bielsa to go to Anfield, to go to the champions, and like many teams will do this year, and just sit back and try and keep them out and go 4-5-1, sometimes play 5 at the back and completely change the whole system, but he didn't. And I think the confidence Bielsa gave in not changing how he played showed on the players on the pitch. I couldn't tell what formation they were playing sometimes. They were here, there and everywhere. I thought Patrick Bamford was excellent. He took some stick last year in a couple of seasons, had a great finish. Jack Harrison I was really pleased for. Jack, I know from his obviously Manchester City, and then going out there. And he's somebody who 3 years ago you maybe wouldn't have said was a Premier League player, because he worked very hard, had loads of enthusiasm, but didn't really have the quality. And Bielsa's turned that round in him as well. So I think Jack Harrison's going to be a big player for them this year. And going forward, I think Leeds, not just because of the performance at the weekend, I think they're going to have a really good season.
Well, I've heard some people say, they came away with nothing at Anfield, and after that performance, it was 0 points. I believe they came away with a total belief that they can more than survive in the Premier League.
I think they gave belief to other teams as well, you know, by going there and doing that, because there's not many teams that go and take the game to Liverpool at Anfield, and Leeds doing it. I think other teams might look at that now and think, do you know what, why don't we go and
But
have a
they
go
still
ourselves?
need to know how to do it, and that's where Bielsa comes in and shows what a top coach he is. What do you think?
I think that this is a big game for them, though, against Fulham, because you can take all of the plaudits at Anfield and that's all okay. If you then beat Fulham and you get 3 points and you're up and running, if you suddenly lose to Fulham, then people will start sort of questioning the way that they play, and do they need to change? I don't think they do need to change. I think in sort of the anti-post preview show, I was sort of saying Leeds around the top half. I think that they are good enough to do like a Wolves or Sheffield United. I wasn't overly surprised with what they did Anfield. They were very clinical. They didn't sort of create loads of opportunities, but the ones that they took, that they created, that they managed to take. And I think they'll beat Fulham. I was really disappointed with the way that Scott Parker's team played against Arsenal. It was against Arsenal, but they lacked in both boxes. So I think Leeds to win, probably with under 3.5 goals.
What did you make of Fulham, and do you worry for them for the Premier League season? And what about this game?
I think it's a bit harsh to say worrying for them after one game, but I think if you've seen the performance against Arsenal, it was very lacklustre. After the first goal went in, it looked to me as if Fulham were just waiting for Arsenal to come on and score more goals, and I was really surprised. I think Scott Parker's done an absolute fantastic job there, but I was really surprised he left Mitrovic out. Was a top goal scorer last year. I know he had injuries towards the end of last season, but Arsenal supposedly suspect defensively. I thought he would have made a big difference, especially getting balls into the box. So I think if Mitrovic can get in and get scoring again, it'll give them a chance. But looking around the team, I just think they lack that little bit of quality.
So we've heard of your Betfred prediction then. What's yours for this game?
Yeah, I think the Leeds 3-0, quite comfortable for them.
Yeah, I think both lost their opening games, but came out of it with completely different mindsets. Leeds to win 0, and 2 or 3 for me as well. Okay, match preview 2, Manchester United against Crystal Palace. First game for United. Can you speak highly of United?
Yeah,
at all or not? Palace beat Southampton last week. How do you see this game?
I think it's a tough game for United. Palace went there last year and won 2-1. Palace going forward could cause them problems, but I just look at the quality that Manchester United have got, especially in the midfield. And, towards the end of the season, Bruno Fernandes, when he first came in, was the best player, one of the best players in the league, and they made such a difference. I think the little break they've had now from the Europa League to now would have benefited him more, because I thought he was looking a bit tired, and there was a lot of reliance on him to be the one that was going to score the goals and create all the goals. And he just looked a little bit tired. But for me, he's going to be a big difference for them. And obviously going forward with Martial, Rashford and Mason Greenwood, they've got the goals that could really cause Palace problems. But on the flip side, United's problems has been defensively, and with Zaha, Batshuayi, Ez coming in as well, they'll be a massive threat in the break. But I think United will nick it 2-1.
A few off-the-field issues, shall we say, that's gone on with United. How do you see the starting 11?
I think the starting 11 in the kind of midfield and attacking areas, maybe not saying we'll win the league, but you look at that and think, top 4 all over. The quality of Fernandes, Pogba, Van der Beek in midfield, and the strikers that Paul mentioned. It's just at the back. I mean, Wan-Bissaka's former Palace player. I mean, he's fine. I think he probably the ideal defender actually to try to stop Zaha, because not many people dribble past Wan-Bissaka. I mean, Maguire. I think they overpaid for Maguire, but he's still a solid Premier League defender. Lindelof, I'm not sure about him as the partnership. That would be sort of the big concern there. Can they get an upgrade to help Maguire out as much as anything else? And I think a left back as well is definitely something they should be looking for. And do you want to be relying on Mason Greenwood? And so that's why, if United really have ambitions of being up with City and Liverpool, they need to spend the money and get Sancho in. I don't know why they're umming and ahhing over sort of, extra few million quid. United have got the money. He's potentially a world-class player. To me, you just got to go and get him.
If they get Sancho, are they in the title race?
I'm sort of in the minority here. I don't think they need Sancho at the minute. I think the priorities has got to be a centre-back to go alongside Harry Maguire. But somebody that's dominant. Harry's been fantastic for England and Man United, and he is the captain, but I don't think he's a leader as in going out there and organise. I think Harry needs somebody like that alongside him to go and do that. A big name centre-half.
Perhaps an athlete as well.
Yeah, so somebody who's quick, who's going to cover for him. And somebody who's a big presence at the back alongside them, and a left back. I think they are, living in Manchester at the minute, and I've got a lot of Man United fans as so-called friends, and
acquaintances. No,
acquaintances, yeah. There's no friends in this game, is there? That's what we're always told.
Not if they're United
yeah,
fans.
Exactly.
Anyway.
And they're of the same thinking. They would love to have Sancho in there, but they're really worried about their defence and who's going to start and goal. Henderson signed his big deal. De Gea is the number one, but we all know the problems he had last season. So I think defensively, for them to push on again, and the distance they made up last year was great, but to try and make that distance to Liverpool, Manchester United, and even Chelsea again this year, I think they need to strengthen at the back.
So your Betfred prediction was?
I went 2-1 United.
2-1.
I'm going to go for United to win to 0. I just think with Palace, if you have a look at their away defeats last season, only in one of them defeats did they manage to score. Now, they got some big results away from home. It's just when they go behind, can they then sort of chase the game? That's my concern for them.
I just wonder at the back and the cobwebs. They only had 2 weeks off, didn't they? And then back into pre-season training. But perhaps Palace will score. But I think United will score a lot more, to be honest with you. Okay, Arsenal, West Ham, London derby. Let's talk. Before we talk about West Ham, let's talk Arsenal first, because they did look strong, didn't they? Yeah. And in control against Fulham. And obviously with the boost now of the Aubameyang deal, things couldn't be going better, could they?
They couldn't, and not just the Fulham game. I think their form towards the end of the season, beating Manchester City in the FA Cup semi-final, then winning it, then winning the Community Shield. They're on a roll at the minute, and Mikel's now got them playing how he wants them to play, not just as in going forward, but they look, especially with the three at the back, defensively they look so organised. And you can tell from the Arsenal that we've seen, not just the beginning of last season, but over the last 3 or 4 years, they've been all over the place defensively, and that's one thing Mikel's addressed as soon as he's been in. And Aubameyang signed his new deal, Lacazette, Nketiah. Willian, I think, is an unbelievable signing. He showed his quality at the weekend. I think Arsenal are going to be ones to look out for this year.
Yes, Chelsea's loss with Willian going to Arsenal. West Ham, sunk by Newcastle. A morale-boosting win, should we say, last night in the Carabao Cup, but expected, of course. Where did the problems lie?
How long we got there?
Well, we haven't got long enough.
No, I mean, it was... They're lucky there were no fans inside the stadium, because it would have gone absolutely crazy, given there's that all negativity around the place anyway. I mean, they weren't sharp defensively. Even Rice, who's supposed to be kind of the key man in midfield, was all over the place with his touch and his passing. Antonio didn't really get into the game, and he's all action forward. He didn't get into the game either. No, it was a really bad performance. I mean, they had their moments with hit the woodwork and stuff like that, but actually Newcastle were clearly the dominant team in that game, and you had to worry. I mean, West Ham have now got a horrendous fixture list coming up.
Let me read you it. So they've lost to Newcastle. They've got Arsenal away, Wolves at home, Leicester away, Spurs away, Man City at home, Liverpool away.
I mean, football doesn't work like that, and they probably will pick up some point somewhere. But you're looking at that thinking, well, where is the next point coming from? No, I think that they're in trouble, sort of short term.
But then short term can go to long term. We spoke in the preview show, didn't we? And I went through those fixtures and I said how important the Newcastle game would be. And this is before Grady Diangana was sold as well. The problem is as well, they've got a good squad, and I still think they're capable of finishing mid-table. But if they don't pick up points in these games, and it's very much like West Ham to lose the teams you shouldn't lose to and beat the teams against you shouldn't win. But that looks really tough. And then if you only pick up a couple of points and you're in the bottom 3, the season then becomes a slog already, doesn't it?
It does, and Scott, people will say it's early doors, you're only 2, 3, 4 games in, but if all of a sudden you're 8 points behind the teams that you should be up there, not just confidence-wise, but mentally as players, it starts getting to you as well. And you don't want to be playing catch-up too early, too soon. And it's going to be interesting for me what David Moyes does at the weekend, as in his team selection and how he sets up going to Arsenal, because obviously the team that started at Newcastle, you would have said first game of the season is his first 11. But then players have asked questions of him last night. You know, Haller going getting 2 goals, he made 9 or 10 changes, and the teams went 1-3-0. So he's got selection problems to have at the weekend. And if you were a player that played last night and won 3-0, albeit against a lesser team, and you get left out for players that had just had the performance that they had against Newcastle and lost 2-0, you'd be asking questions. And that's where I worry for West Ham and their squad, because they've got a big squad and they've got a lot of quality in the squad, but it's can you keep everybody happy and keep the harmony going there when things aren't going so well? Okay.
Betfred selection for this game.
I'm going Arsenal 3-0. Sorry, Scott.
I'm not far off that, I'm afraid.
I'm going for Arsenal to win by more than 1 goal. The fallback areas for West Ham, I'd look at the matchups of Aubameyang and Willian against Fredericks and Cresswell, and I'd worry for the Hammers there.
It's perhaps a game I'm glad I'm not playing for West Ham. I mean, all is not well off the pitch. Terrible run of games coming up. Arsenal on the high with the Aubameyang deal as well. I can't see West Ham scoring, and I can see Arsenal scoring more than 1. So we'll move swiftly on. Another one of my former sides, Chelsea, Liverpool. I mean, there's some game this weekend, isn't there? Did the Liverpool game against Leeds sort of show the weaknesses, do you feel, that they have? Or were they still able to somehow, despite not playing well, find a way to win, which is what they did last season?
I think a bit of both. You know, and I'll go back to giving Leeds credit again by the pressure that they put on Liverpool's back four and Van Dijk, because you don't see, you know, usually if teams are trying to press against Liverpool, or they'll leave Van Dijk on the ball because they think he's this superhuman being that never loses it. But I think they slightly targeted him and Gomez last weekend, and it showed them up a little bit. And but they found a way again. You know, when you've got Salah in the form he's in, and you've got Mane and you've got Firmino and players like that, you're always going to have a chance of winning games, even when you're not playing well, as Liverpool have showed over the last few years. But I think defensively, not just last week against Leeds, I think towards the end of last season, I don't know, people were saying that they took the foot off the gas and they'd won the league and maybe rightly slow. But I think there was little cracks there defensively for people to see already. And I think with Chelsea, with Havertz, with Werner getting their first games under them, will really test them at the weekend.
What did you make of the Chelsea performance? It was a bitty, rusty performance, wasn't it?
It was, it looked like a team that had not been thrown together, but just had new faces in there and were trying to find their way and sort of, you know, what is the best formation to get all of these players into the team. And it won't be easy. In some respects, Lampard's got a great job because he's got loads of great players, but then to sort of put that team together, and he said after the game that they won't kind of be married to one formation and that they'll be able to change it up. I mean, what didn't change was that Kepa was beaten from long range again, and they need to sort that goalkeeping situation out, because you look at the two teams ahead of them. Ederson probably made 1 or 2 mistakes more than last season than what I would expect from him, but still, you know, a top goalkeeper. And Alisson is just outstanding, really, in sort of everything he does. So, you know, you can't be going into battle against those two with somebody who gets beat as often as what Kepa does from sort of 20, 25 yards. It wasn't a great performance, but it wasn't an unexpected performance from Chelsea. I think they will get better as the season goes on.
I said to Mark a couple of weeks ago about the Kepa, of all the money that's been spent from the end of last season, if there was only one player to buy, it would be a goalkeeper. And for all the quality that they've got going forward, and there is quality, and it's a positive problem, managers say that, but it's still going to be difficult finding who, and then giving them the consistency, it should be in the right positions. The one position is goalkeeper. That's a major issue for Chelsea, isn't it?
It's massive, and if you look over the years, even going back to Sir Alex and even Blackburn, they brought Tim Flowers in, who was one of the best goalkeepers around at the time. All the teams that have won the Premier League have had top goalkeepers, not just good goalkeepers. They've been up there with the best goalkeepers in the league, and there is a problem, but I don't think it's something that Frank doesn't know. You know, I think when you
they're chasing it, aren't they? Especially with Petr Cech being the director of football. So do you see goals in this game?
I don't. I actually see it being. I went for a draw in this. I see it being quite tight. You know, I don't think Liverpool will make the same mistakes defensively as they did last time. I think Chelsea will be solid again. I think it'll be a really close game, and I'm looking forward to seeing Werner and Havertz again. You know, I thought Werner, his enthusiasm, his movement was great the other night there. I thought Havertz struggled a little bit to get into the game, but having the 90 minutes under the belt, going into this game, a big game against the champions, I think we'll probably see the best of them.
So you're going for a draw?
A 1-1 draw.
I'm going to go, I think Liverpool, in terms of the betting, a little bit short here to win the game. I'm going to go for draw, Chelsea draw, no bet. So you get your money back if it is a draw, and then you win if Chelsea win. I just think Liverpool looked a little bit more vulnerable than I was expecting against Leeds. And, you know, this is, if you look at it on paper, could be one of the hardest games that Liverpool have all season long if Chelsea are as good as what, you know, many people are suggesting this season.
I'm going for goals, but I'm going for a score draw. I think both defences look dodgy in the first game, or certainly Chelsea as a defensive unit didn't look great. Liverpool defence didn't look great, and you look at the power of both of them going forward. So for me, there's goals in this, and goals from both teams. A score draw I'm going for. Okay, Leicester, Burnley. Leicester dispatched West Brom with absolute ease, didn't they? I'm not sure you're happy about that. Castagne debut goal as well. And important for Jamie Vardy to get on the score sheet early to see if he can carry on that great form of last season.
Yeah, well, it was important, but I don't think there was any doubts about him this year. You know, he seems to get, as good as he's been over the last few years, he seems to get better as the older he's getting, you know, and I think a lot of that's down to the relationship he's got with Brendan Rodgers. You know, he's not the Jamie Vardy that we've seen when they won the league, where he's scampering here, there and everywhere. You know, he's chasing crisp packets around the ground. You know, he's conserving his energy
like
a little
bit.
Well, yeah, but Jamie scores goals. You know, I struggled on that part a little bit. You know, he's picking and choosing the runs that he's making, and he's got energy in there around him as well. And I know people say it was a couple of penalties at the weekend. It doesn't matter. You know, he looked so sharp. I think Castagne's a great signing for them as well. You know, obviously the blow of losing Chilwell. He's experienced. He's attacking-minded fullback, and Leicester look good again. You know, without really spending a lot of money.
Were you a penalty taker?
I love taking them. Yeah.
Did you? See, when people say about penalties, they're only penalties. Maybe 2 maximum, 3 maximum people in the 11 that would have stepped up to taking a penalty.
Well, for me, it was a goal.
That's a typical striker's mentality. But whenever anyone says that, I just say, look, you ask an 11 who would have wanted to take a penalty at any given time. You get 2 or 3 saying yes, definitely. The rest are lying.
It's like when you see the penalty shootouts and everybody's in together and the manager's picking the 5 and people sort of start turning their backs.
Yeah, exactly. Funny enough, I only took 3 penalties in my career, all penalty shootouts. The 2 that I scored, I voted for myself to be in the top 5. The one that I missed, I didn't want to be in the top 5. So again, it's a mentality stroke confidence thing. Okay, let's talk about Burnley. First game back. What do we expect from them? Can they keep on surviving and surviving comfortably?
Every year about this stage, I think, no, this could be the year that Burnley go. Look at the size of the squad. You know, it's not particularly big. You look at the quality of, say, teams around them. Palace are bringing in Eze, Newcastle spending some money, Aston Villa are spending money. And you feel like, oh, could this be the year? And then you look at what Sean Dyche does year after year after year, and he manages to keep them up and do it quite easily, like really. Yeah, well, I think he's different. He's very different to Eddie Howe.
Very different style, but in terms of keeping a club up, you wouldn't expect to be up.
No, I mean, I think in terms of keeping a team up, I'd probably bank on Dyche, you know, being able to do that more often, particularly with the players that he's got. And I don't, in terms of what do we expect from Burnley, I don't expect anything different than what we've seen over the years. They'll defend deep, they'll be compact. They've got a threat up front. They've got some very awkward forwards that are actually sort of chipping in, sort of getting around the double figure mark. And they're just going to, I think it was it Guardiola that referred to it as like a trip to the dentist when you play Burnley. It is what it is, and very few teams will find it easy playing against them. You know, probably one of the least enjoyable sort of 90 minutes that anybody will have.
My wife's a dentist, and I know what he means. Okay, your Betfred selection for this game?
I'm going to go with another one of my old clubs, Leicester. I just agree with everything you're saying about Burnley there, but I don't know if it's going to be a step too far for them this year. just because of the points that you made. You know, the teams around them have strengthened with a lot of quality. You know, you mentioned Palace, you mentioned Newcastle. Big signings that they're making to try and make that next step. And I just think Burnley might get left a little bit behind this season. So I'm going to go Leicester 1 or 2-0. 2-0 will go Leicester.
I'm just not sure that Vardy will get that space in behind that he quite likes. And so I'm going to go for Burnley to do a Burnley and get a draw.
Are you? I think this will not be a classic. I just see just one goal in it. I think Vardy will probably get it, yeah. Okay, you're looking forward to this one. Wolves, Manchester City.
I don't know, actually.
Now, City's first game back, and obviously they want to start the season strongly. I don't think there's a much more of a difficult place to go to right now, well, certainly for a first game of the season. Anyway.
Especially after Wolves' performance at Sheffield United. I thought they were excellent. First half, attacking-wise, obviously got a couple of goals, but then defensively, second half, you know, they're so well organised, and I think you're right, Scott, it's such a tough game for Man City, but...
Have you got your ambassador's hat on here?
I have, yeah. I've got my blue tinted glasses on here as well. I just think Man City have and will have the bit between their teeth this year, you know, and when we came back after restart, that their form and the performances were excellent. I know for a fact that Hurton might not be how disappointed they were to finish so far behind Liverpool and how the season fizzled out. And you know, I was funnily enough, I was on a golf course a couple of weeks ago, and Kevin De Bruyne was playing. And I had a quick chat with him. It was just after, obviously Leon had beat them, and he couldn't wait to get back to put things right. And I think that's the mentality that Pep's going to have with them this season. I know they've brought in Nathan Ake, who I think will be a really good signing. Ferran Torres, if people haven't seen a lot of them, he's so exciting. He's a little bit of a cross. Don't want to put too much on him because he's only 20. He's got the pace of Leroy Sané and a little bit like Bernardo Silva and how he dribbles with the ball. And I think he's a fantastic signing for 20 million. And I think there'll be a couple of more signings coming in very soon. But, you know, Wolves done the double over them last year as well. You know, came to the Etihad and won, obviously beat them at home as well. So it's going to be a tough game. But I can see Man City nicking it.
Of course.
I've got to say that.
Just on the golf, Kevin De Bruyne, when he's about 200 yards out, does he use a right foot to do instead of a club?
He flips it up and half volleys it into it. Yeah.
What do we think about Wolves? Because they looked strong, didn't they, as Dicko's saying there, against Sheffield United?
Yeah, I mean, when we did the preview show a couple of weeks ago, there were a couple of question marks, mainly around Nuno. You know, he hadn't signed the new contract. He was just worried that, you know, if he left, would everything just cave in? Because he's been so influential, obviously, you know, bringing in the Portuguese players, making them feel at home as well, and then the structure of the team. I mean, in terms of organisation, you'd struggle to find anybody better, I would say, in the Premier League, really, than the way that he can sort of set a team up. So I was worried about them. Then they started to spend some money. It looks like Nuno's, you know, the contracts will be done. And with no Europa League this time, they've got to be aiming for top six. I mean, you need to put that pressure on them, I believe, now. You look at the squad again is probably on the thin side, but that front, sort of the starting 11, should be competing for the top six.
Could they even do a Leicester of last season and threaten the top four?
I think they could. I know. I've sort of gone for a Man City win. I think Man City and Pep will be delighted if they come away with a point on Monday night, with it being the first game. I love everything about Wolves, about how they play. I think in Jimenez, they've got one of the best strikers, not just in the Premier League, but in Europe. I'm really surprised that a big club's not come in from yet. And they've got some fantastic players. And I think Nuno signing the contract as well was a huge boost for them all.
So your Betfred's prediction here is?
1-0 Man City.
Okay.
I mean, just purely from a betting point of view here, Man City are odds on away from home at Molineux. That's not for me. They only won one game away to a team in the top 7 last year. Wolves did the double over them. I'm going for Wolves or draw double chance, which effectively means your bet wins as long as Man City don't.
Okay. I do think City will win the title. I think they'll have their bit between their teeth, but I think it's a tough first game. I'm going for a score draw on this one. Okay, let's go to our best fantasy football picks this weekend, where each of us will pick a player we think will perform the best coming up in the Premier League. What do you think, Mark? What's your pick?
It might be a little bit knee-jerk United, but I'm going for Dominic Calvert-Lewin, not just because of the goal that he scored last week against Tottenham, which was a brilliant header, but just the fact that Everton looked really good. We haven't touched on Everton, but if they're going to kick on, I think that they will. I mean, the midfield looks a lot better. James definitely going to create more chances. And Calvert-Lewin, he's not going to get you sort of 20, 25, I don't think, but he can get that up to 15 goals a season. And Everton have got some lovely fixtures coming up, starting with West Brom, Crystal Palace and Brighton. So I think Calvert-Lewin can pick up some cheap points.
I love James Rodriguez, and again, my wife's Colombian, so I've got 5 brothers-in-law who will be not happy with what I'm about to say. The jury for me will be out. I thought he was brilliant last week, absolutely brilliant. And for me, was man of the match, the way he almost controlled the game from being out wide. Let's just see after 10, 15 games where he is. That's all I'm saying. The jury's out. Your pick this weekend?
Probably a slightly easy one, and I did pick it before he signed his new contract, is Aubameyang.
I picked Aubameyang as well, but I was told that you were pulling rank. So,
yeah, well, there you go. I'm slightly older, I think, so there you go.
Sure you are.
I think I am. I'll look it anyway. I just think he's on a run. He's finished off, started this season how he finished off last season. He looks so confident, springing his step. I think it's one of them that the old Thierry Henry one, when he cuts in his right-hand foot, defenders and goalkeepers know that he's going to do that one into the far corner and still can't stop it. And I think, touching it before, the West Ham's fullbacks up against him as well. I think he could score a hatful at the weekend.
Yeah, I think if I was up against him, I'd be wanting 2, if not 3 players alongside me to help out. Okay, so I'm not going for Aubameyang. I'll go for United because I do think they will score. I'll go for United forward. Then it's really Martial or Rashford. I just don't know about the mentality of Mason Greenwood, and we'll see if he starts. But I'm going to go for Anthony Martial. I think, again, he's stepped it up a little bit. I still feel there's question marks about him, but there's no doubt the talents he's got. I think against Crystal Palace, I think they could run riot after what might be a sort of rusty first 20 minutes. So I'm going for Anthony Martial on that one. We'll see. Didn't do so well last week on that one with Ilan Meslier, but I was close with the team treble.
I think if you keep Meslier in your team long term, he'll pick up.
He'll do okay. So team treble now, where each of us picks a team that we think will win this week. Who have you gone for and why, Dicko?
Just being consistent with Aubameyang, I'm going for Arsenal. I thought they looked really good last week. I think talking about the players going forward, I thought Gabriel came in at centre half and looked really, really strong. And Mikel has got them at it at the minute, and I think it's going to be a tough day for West Ham. Yeah.
I know you said about being organised probably for the last three or 4 years the best. I'd say it goes far to say a decade, even under Arsene Wenger. So he's definitely improving players as well as bringing players in. Mark?
I was going to go for Arsenal, but I was told that Paul had already selected them.
He's the gaffer.
He's pulling rank everywhere. So I'm going to the Bundesliga, which returns this weekend. Borussia Dortmund to beat Borussia Mönchengladbach on Saturday. I don't really go mad for head-to-heads, but Dortmund have won the last 11 times they've played against Gladbach, which is a crazy stat. But I think the main thing here is that Dortmund have, for once, haven't sold their best players in the summer. You've got Sancho, you've got Erling Haaland, who, I mean, the goals he scored for Norway against Northern Ireland were absolutely sensational. I mean, he will eventually
play for Leeds.
I know. I think he'll be going maybe to the Premier League, but maybe a bit higher up than Leeds one day. Yeah, I mean, he will be fantastic. So with him and Sancho, I think they'll have too much for Gladbach.
Okay. I mean, there is a few. I thought about Arsenal, Leeds, United, Everton as well. We're really impressed with them last week. But the best bet I sort of saw was Newcastle. Newcastle to beat Brighton. I think Newcastle will be on a high after what they did last week at the London Stadium. Callum Wilson came in and looked brilliant. Again, I want to judge him on 10, 15 games before we sort of say that it's a fantastic buy. But we know what he's capable of. And while Brighton, I thought they were unlucky against Chelsea, I think going forward, I don't see lots of goals in them. They play really good football, but the final third, they'll struggle. So I think Newcastle, first game at home, disappointed. Obviously, the fans won't be around, but I can see them winning this one. And that's it, chaps. Absolutely flown by, hasn't it, at the time? We'll have to wait and see how City get on. I know you can take your City hat off now.
They'll be all right.
I'm sure they'll be fine, and come the end of the season as well. Mark, as always, thank you very much. Thanks. That's it for this week's Different League show. Absolutely, really enjoyed that one. We're back next week. Of course, we'll look back at the games at the weekend and look forward to Game 3 as well. So looking forward to that. Our thanks to Betfred. The message from them and the Racing Post is please bet responsibly. Bye for now.